talk about
That
that.
was like the last bit. So, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad I get to interview you today, Leslie. Thank you so much for joining me for the Enneagram and Marriage podcast.
It's good to be here, Krista.
Thank you. And we were just sharing how funny it is that I'm an auditory learner, but I found Leslie through video format because you have a YouTube channel, right?
I do. I did just a long time ago on kind of happenstance because I had been doing courses for a group called Integral Life, and so many of my stuff was recorded audio or visually. And I thought, I'm gonna just start uploading some videos, and it was a good idea. I was sharing with you. Most people find me through my YouTube channel.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll grab all that at the end too. But guys, we are just really in for a treat today with Leslie. I am so grateful she agreed to meet with us to talk about the centers approach that she is famous for in the Enneagram world as we talk about conflict in marriage, because we need to pull out all the big dogs. Thank you, Leslie. You are just an absolute hero of mine in the Enneagram world.
Well, thank you. I would like to say that after working with the Enneagram for almost 25 years, that I never have conflicts in marriage or with children or with people.
Oh.
And we do. So there's more on that, just these tools are fabulous tools. I think that's how we evolve, is through these conflicts. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, yes, I do want to talk more about that because you have already helped me personally just in our brief conversations with the knowledge that you've shared. So make sure you guys please check out her videos on each of the type on her YouTube channels. It even helped me to define areas of my type that I didn't know were areas of issue for me. So make sure you check out Leslie Hershberger's videos. But first, before we get to that, Leslie, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your background in your marriage?
Oh, sure. My background overall, or my background in my marriage? Both?
Both.
Okay. So I met my husband. This is really unusual, at least in my world, at 17. And we worked at a garden store together. And I had known him from high school. I just knew of him. But he was younger than me. So I thought, So anyway, you know how that is when you're in high school.
Yes.
Anyway, we got together, married 5 years later. And I think about probably the thing I often think of when I think about my husband is I am a social 7. He is a self-preservation 9. And when I was 20, my family had a really difficult loss. My brother's wife and baby died. And I remember as a 7, just that feeling completely overwhelmed, under-equipped to deal with something, thinking I would never be happy again. It was an overwhelm. And he was just solid, steady Eddie. And I remember thinking, why does he keep coming over? Why does he keep showing up at my house? And, he was 20. And just when he was close to her as well. But it was that solid, steady Eddie, which is a real virtue for 7s, steady on, steady on. And it was not a happy family to be in. It was really sad. It was like we had a shroud over. So since then, we are celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary this year. And I think I've had a lot of different marriages, and they've all been with the same person. We're actually in a new iteration of our marriage right now. It's just really changed significantly. And I would say it's been brought on by, the times, the pandemic, our children being adults in their 30s, evoking new awarenesses of ourselves. So that's been really interesting. So that's my marriage in a real short nutshell. And then work-wise, I actually got into the Enneagram in my 30s to understand my children. And I would say that if I were really being honest, it would be to change and control my children, not myself, because my children were very different from me. And as they started coming in, I moved a lot as a kid. And as they started coming into those years when I moved, that was when I started feeling a lot of anxiety because they didn't do life the way I did. And so I came across Helen Palmer's work. Actually, I came across a number of people at the time, but it was her book that I read. It was called The Enneagram. And I read it, and I thought, you know, mom's a one, so I had some one in me. I had a lot of one in me, especially if we're talking about conflict.
Mhm.
And I have my father's was a two. I have a lot of two in me, so I would see that, you know. But it was when I got to seven that I started to blush. Who is this woman? Why does she hate me? You know, it was
Yeah.
just so direct, so clear. And it was really identifying a lot of what I was seeing, most significantly in my marriage and the things my husband saw in me that I didn't want to see in myself or that I would reframe.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so that just set me on a path of I called somebody in town and said, who do I train with? And they said, train with Helen, you know, and this
Mm.
is a real Helen area. This Cincinnati is. She
Mm.
called it her East Coast base. So she would come here every year. I went and certified with the narrative in 2000, 2001, 2. And then Helen started a learning community here that she invited practitioners and people she felt like wanted to deepen. And that was probably, and I just found that letter the other day. And I think it was like in 2002 that I got it, that I started with that learning community where we met with Helen twice a year. And as relates to, so the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to focus on the spiritual dimension of the Enneagram. So I got a master's in theology in order
Mhm.
to understand the contemplative arms of the different traditions. So I focused primarily on contemplative Christianity. And I also focused on Buddhist meditation practice. I was really intrigued by the method. At that time, I did not know there was Christian contemplative practice.
Yeah.
And I loved the inner observer. And Helen, you know, was really good at, she had oh goodness, she had like a 30 years Zen practice. So she was really teaching us
Mm.
to self-observe
Oh,
and
wow.
observe the patterns and the structure of our type through our sitting. And
Mm.
so, but it's one thing to sit and observe the patterns of your type, and it's another thing to bring it on the road. And
Mm.
so, you know, I started to really do a lot with panels and listen to people on panels. I also got so did some work in a area called integral studies because I was so struck by how I was changing, and it was anxiety provoking, like extremely anxiety
Yeah.
provoking.
Yeah.
And I started understanding stages of adult development and stages of faith through the work of Ken Wilber.
Mm.
So I would say, I think like in 2006, I started getting some work. I started doing my post-grad work with them. And then they asked me to do a course, and I did two courses for them. One is called Coming Home, an Integral Christian Practicum. And the other one was, um, a follow-up using the Enneagram as because when
Mm.
people start shifting from their self-identity, you know, how am I with my internal church structure or religious structure or education or familial structure, I come inside and I meet myself through
Yeah.
the Enneagram is such a great lens. And so I started working a lot, you know, with the Enneagram. And then businesses started calling. So I went and got certified in the Enneagram in business because I just felt like I really needed some practical tools. So I did some coaching, you know, I did training in the Enneagram in business, then two trainings in Enneagram coaching. So I've got a pretty, like a seven, I've got a pretty, you know, wide practice, and I've been focusing a lot on the business world lately, but my great love is the integration of psychology and spirituality, where psychology
Mm.
looks at the narratives and looks at the stories of we are and says, you know, you are your story, you know, you are your family of origin. And spirituality says, you're not your story, you're not your family, you're much more.
Yeah.
And so it's this real integration of those two modalities. So
Oh,
that's kind of my great love.
that's fascinating. And I'm so glad we're picking up end of March, early April, because April we're leading into spirituality. And I'm kind of jealously having the FOMO of wanting you in both spots. So,
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, spiritual presence, you know, here's the
yeah.
thing. What I loved about Helen's work is that straight up, that's her work. And she worked
Mm.
with David Daniels, a psychiatrist from Stanford, but it's a straight up integration of spirituality and psychology. And her second book was the Enneagram in Love and Work, because that's when the rubber hits the road, is within our relationships
Mhm.
and within our workplace. And I have to tell you, Krista, I've loved working with people in the workplace, and I'm working with presence. I mean, that a 3-centered presence is the core way I work with people.
Wow.
Because people can, there's a lot of people who have a lot of skill sets in so many different really helpful modalities to help us learn about certain structures of consciousness and ways we see the world, family of origin work, and the bone system, family systems. And I mean, there's so many different ways, cognitive behavioral therapy, but can people be present to each other? That's when the rubber hits the road. And that's the, I can be present to myself in my meditation chair, but can I be present to my husband when he's doing his 9 thing?
Oh
Or
my
when I'm doing
God.
my 7 thing? Those are 2 really different things. And so it's really bringing the work on the road into these really important parts of our lives.
Thank you. And thank you for the commitment of staying with the work as a 7, because you've become a pioneer for the rest of us. And I know you have predecessors as well. And we're just all in the journey, but we're just really blessed by you doing this work. And I know it's work. I know we're all on the journey.
Yes.
But thank you, because that's a marvelous story. And we're hearing, when I look at your past and see where you've been, I'm like, oh, wow, Helen Palmer, David Daniels, Ginger, others. I mean, you've really got this robust training, and now you've been able to bring new things to it, this integration. So with
Right.
spirituality, with marriage, we want to know, in your years of marriage, and it sounds like spirituality might be part of this, but what is a basic practice that you've learned about marriage that's just been very helpful, even outside of the center's approach?
Oh, that's a great question, Krista. Yeah, I would say, if I just, my first, the first answer would be obviously understanding what's up for my husband and what's up for me as relates to our Enneagram style. That is really, really important. And I think that I thought there'd be a mountaintop. I mean, you and I are both idealization types. So I have an ideal of how we're going to be, of how my family is going to be. And we both have a frustration when the ideal's not met. And my ideal's not met weekly. My ideal's not met daily. All right. Now, my 7 self wants to reframe the ideal, but then I miss what's happening in the present moment. So I would say the second core practice for me is, can I be present to myself and to Dave in that I thou, where I see you as you are to yourself when the heat is on? That to me is my core practice. And we 7s, and we all had people mentalize our emotions. And so the other feels that lack of presence. They feel like they're getting analyzed. They feel like they're getting figured out. They feel like they're getting condescended to, and I'll learn you a thing or two if I'm not in my body and in my heart. And it's being an assert type, I'm like a freight engine running. It's more. And so I've really been, my real intention in the past couple of years is, can I really bring who I am at work? Because I can be really present to my clients and really present on a panel. Can I bring it in a fuller way? Krista, I'm going to move. Krista knows this, that my camera working this morning. And so I'm using another camera. And I think what I'd like to do, I think that light will be going in and out if I sit here.
Oh, yes. And that's beautiful setting either way.
Yeah. So it's like presence in relationship is just really important. And it's a daily practice. And my meditation practice helps. I can always, in fact, my kids and my husband used to tell me to go meditate because they could see the difference.
Wow, that's a great wealth of info for us. Anyone who's running fast, whether they be a head type or a body type or a heart type, just to hear that the family is part of it. Like they're encouraging you to do your work, and that you're also saying, when I do my work, I bring in such a different flavor to the family. And I know I can, because I find my way to it at work and with clients, and just the bringing of it at home. How fascinating.
And it was, I don't know if you've ever heard of Esther Perel, but Esther Perel was actually the one who had me think about that a couple. Do you bring your best, Ginger's book is Bring Your Best Self to Work. Esther's challenge you to bring your best self to home, And that's a big challenge to think about, coming home at the end of the day, being tired.
Yeah.
I bring, or if you're home with your children, it's
Mhm.
just, it's a world too, where we're having so many claims on our attention. And so it's a really challenging world to do this work in.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like everyone has a 7 now. Sorry.
Yeah. Like hyper distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. And so we want to help everybody to learn today from your centers approach, but you've already helped us to center. So thank you. And tell us more about just for those who are maybe newer to the Enneagram about the centers of intelligence.
Sure, sure. So I happened upon this centers approach because when I was certifying,
Mhm.
my training's been with a lot of head types. Tom Condon was somebody who was a big influence on me. Helen,
Mhm.
David, Claudio Naranjo's work he's a 5.
Mhm.
I think Almas is a 5. But all these kind of people on whose shoulders I stand on
Mhm.
were head types.
Mhm.
And I then went to Ginger's training, and it was like Ginger's a heart type, and there's a lot of doing. Ginger creates, she's really good at creating products that you can use in your trainings. But I worked with a friend of mine who's an 8 who just said, they don't get the body center right.
Yeah.
And so we decided to get together to do some research, and we did a 2-year period of research, which asked a heart type. Her name is Renee Rosario. She's on this faculty of the narrative.
Mhm.
And we did a 2-year deep dive study into the centers, and we came across the work of Suzanne Zurcher, who was a Benedictine nun, and she was doing spiritual direction with people.
Mhm.
And Claire was blown out of the water by her work. So we
Mhm.
started to just dig into it because she says in the centers approach, the heart center, the head center is the perceiving center. Now that we know, we
Mhm.
tend to have like our eyes are just kind of taking in information kind of more than anybody else can see. We notice things other people don't see. Data.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now one would say that the heart center is the feeling center. All right,
Mhm.
these emotional types, that was not what we were finding, and Suzanne was a 4.
Mm.
The body types were the feeling center, and I'll say more about that in a moment. And if you're a heart type, you can get this because you know this about yourself, is that you're feeling everybody else's feelings. Okay, you're out there noticing how everybody else is feeling and shape shifting in some way to make a connection. You
Mhm.
want connection to other people. And so for you, it's not as much about noticing what you're feeling as much as it is about paying attention to what others are feeling and then kind of shaping yourself around that.
Mhm.
Now, that was really good for me to know, particularly when I was working with people, Krista,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know that they look so feeling oriented, but they're out of touch with their own feelings, which are buried. And even just bringing people in a meditation practice in my office could sometimes make the heart types a little anxious. They don't know me that well, and I'm looking to others, if I'm a heart type, facial cues, body language, words, on how am I doing. So the heart center is the doing center.
Thank you
I,
for
I
explaining that. I've always wondered about that because I read the different things, analyzing, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And I read it and just hearing you say it, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah. Well, connecting to others is important. So I can tell you let me give you a real simple example of the way doing shows up. All
Okay.
right. Um, well, I'm going to precede it with this. I make the distinction between feeling and sentiment.
Mm.
Feeling is in the body types. It's what is in the body in the present moment.
Mhm.
I like it, I don't like it, I want it, I don't want it. And this is what body types, this is how they make their way through the world. All right.
Mhm.
They feel intense emotional responses, and even before they're in conscious awareness, they try to control their feeling, their
Yeah.
somatic response. Soma
Mm.
comes from the word body, by numbing out, stuffing, and repressing my feelings. Their
Mm.
less comfortable feelings are converted to anger, okay? And their energies reserved for things that are important. If they think it's stupid and not worth their while, they'll discount it.
Yeah.
Feelings are in the body. Feelings are instinctive. They rise from within. They're felt, they're experienced. Like a
Mm.
feeling. How am I feeling in this moment? Dull, kind of low energy? Am I full of energy?
Yeah.
Sentiment is constructed. It's superficial. It's a response to a situation. It's acted out. It's staged. It's doing. So,
Mm.
so let's talk about it. Let me make the distinction. You and I are in the grocery store, and I
Mhm.
have something place I see you over there. All right.
Mhm.
But I got to be someplace. So I don't want to run into you. We've all had that experience of not wanting to run into this person. It doesn't matter about liking them or not liking them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just we got to get going.
Yeah.
So I might, just kind of, and then all of a sudden you round the corner and I see you and I say, "Oh, hi, Krista. It's great to see you." Because
Yeah.
I'm socialized to
Yeah.
make connection with you.
Right.
I
Right.
don't want to be rude. That's sentiment. That's doing connection.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
an acting. It's got a doing component.
Oh,
The
okay. So the
feeling,
twos, threes, and fours do that.
yes. And
Oh,
they want to convey three very different images.
okay.
All right.
Wow.
So
Fascinating.
so to understand that, it's really important for people to understand that. And these are hardwired into our nervous systems, these three very distinct ways of being.
Can
We're
you tell us
hardwired.
about them?
Of the three distinct ways of
Yes.
being and how
Yeah.
it shows up in our nervous system. Absolutely. Okay, so let's think of it. The center of intelligence, the body type, the
Yeah.
the emotional alarm bell is called anger. All
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
This is so if you're a mammal, dog, and Krista, this so helped me to know this because it helped me be kinder to myself. All right.
Yes.
These are instinctive responses. These are emotions. It's seven emotions. These a guy named Jack Panskepp identified, care, play, joy, but these negative emotions are associated with the three Enneagram centers:
Mhm.
anger,
Mhm.
distress, panic at the loss of connection, and
Mhm.
fear. So for the body center, the core emotion is anger.
Mhm.
That's their alarm bell. Power up, defend my territory. I feel in my body, all right, a lot of feelings. And can you imagine? So when I'm coaching them, they come in and they don't look like there's a lot of feelings. They look armored. Why? Because I can't let you, imprint yourself on me. And this is even nines. There's an armoring that happens. The eights, it's I'm going to power up and get what I need. The nine, I'm going to I'm going to kind of numb to my own feelings and focus on you and kind of fall asleep to myself. So my anger will subside. Now the
Mm.
one, I'm not angry, but I can see what needs to be corrected here. I'm going to suppress and conceal my anger and I don't know it. All right. So
Mm.
this is the protection anger type.
Mm.
All right. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And you're explaining it in a way that is deeper and richer than how we normally get it. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's feeling. So when you're coaching, if you're working with, you have a child who's a body type, no, there's a lot more going on in there. No. And it's like body types really need to be seen. You
Mm.
need to know your worth.
Mm.
And they're self-forgetting. They need to be named.
Mm.
But the feelings feel like too much. So there's this protective function. And if you're a body type, just let us know in the comments section too, if that resonates for you.
Thank
It's like,
you.
I don't always know what I want.
Mm.
So it's just for an eight, I'm going to kind of go get it. So I have to know that being married to a body type and I one time asked my husband, I said, "Do you feel things strongly?" Like, he says, "Yeah, doesn't everyone?"
Mm.
Like, and it doesn't look like that on the outside, Krista.
No, it doesn't. But I know it with a nine in my home and a one in my home. And we've done a lot on this podcast to explore. And a lot of this is just us playing with it because we're trying to figure it out together. That we've learned that a lot of the body types are five senses people, of course. And so we've taken it from that space. We've talked a lot
Yeah.
about that. We've had occupational therapists on trying to help us. But the way you're explaining it is helping me to know why this is happening.
Yes, there's a really great practice called interoception, which is turning the attention inwards and feeling the felt sense of your body sensations. Okay, so when I'm working with a body type, we do start there. But the
Okay.
other thing, the secondary function for body types is the heart. I have to bring them into their heart, self-compassion,
Mm,
compassion to really see what's up for them. All right.
mm, mhm.
When we head types are kind of all in our mental stop, it's hard for me. I want to figure him out,
Yeah.
right? I want to tell him how it is as a 9. I teach this stuff. I want to tell you how it is for you. If you're a body type, tell me, how does that work for you? If I had types telling you how it is for you, it's just
Yeah.
it's a armoring. You're not going to control me. Don't you tell me how I am,
Mm,
right?
yes. Oh,
And
wow.
so
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So it's a defend and protect. You're trying to get into my space. It's encroachment. They can smell it, they can taste it, they can sense it.
Yes.
Uh, Body types have a real eye, an instinctual sense of somebody getting into my space and trying to take me over and telling me how it is. And that's all 3 body types.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Then that's,
So
yeah, when we're working with that body type in marriage, we don't want them to feel that way. That's huge because they're like, I'm right, you're wrong, or just get kind of out of my space. How do you work with somebody like that as a spouse? It sounds like you said one of the ways is
yeah.
bring them into their heart instead of trying to figure them out.
But if I tried to get my husband to come into his heart through one of my wonderful practices that my clients and students pay to come to, it will annoy the crap out of him.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
He'll
This is
feel taught.
marriage.
He'll feel this is his marriage. This is real life. So what I have to first do is deal with myself, deal
Okay.
with my own reactivity. And this is new for me, to really come inside my own body and what's happening for me. We 7s are not comfortable with anger.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
so I have to first come and become like, I get teachy preachy when I'm angry. It's a sign I'm angry. All
Mm,
right.
mhm.
And so I have to become aware of my own anger. And
Okay.
sometimes, and I'm getting better at this, is taking some time to be with myself, be aware of my anger, and see what's up for me with a little bit of kindness for myself. That's
Mm,
number one.
mm,
Um, we're getting better at now saying what's real for ourselves. When 7s and 9s get into conflict, it's a sign you're invested in the marriage. These are 2 positive reframe types,
right.
right?
Right. I
So
love
we
your PDF, how you go through all the different types too.
yeah, yeah. These are really positive reframe types. We don't want to have those hard conversations. So
Mhm.
risking the hard conversation. So him knowing what he wants, and he's gotten so much better at knowing what he wants and saying what he wants. But 9s need a clear path forward. I have to sit back in my chair. And sometimes, Krista, that's the
Mhm.
simplest thing for me to do, is to sit back in my chair, because to almost notice when I'm going like this, I'm almost encroaching into his space, trying to get things to be my way. So if I
Mm,
can sit back in my chair, cross my legs, see what's up for him, and be aware of my own reactivity and stop talking.
mm,
It's one of the hardest things, because when I stop talking, I have to feel my own feelings. And I don't want to feel my own feelings. So the
right.
talking pace keeps
Yeah.
me from feeling. So now, as a 9, he has some clear way forward. There's
Mm,
some space now for him, and
yeah.
9s need that.
Mm,
And for him, his work is to know what he wants, to get in touch with him being angry. We do it, we joke about it a lot. Trust me. If I say it seems like something's bothering you, he used to say, so why don't you tell me what it is? Because it's taken me 2 weeks to figure out what it is. Right.
aw.
But he's getting much better with his
Mm,
own practice, knowing what matters to him.
yeah.
And but it's a constant, it's a, like I said, we evolve through these relationships. And
Mhm.
the new iteration now, being our age, is just really working with our bodies as they age, our children being adults. It's a whole different kind of relationship. I just can't even tell you. And these times we're in, like,
Yes.
these really tenuous times. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It really helps us to hear that. And we love hearing about the 7-9 marriage too. We bring a lot of the pairings on to hear about them. And we really love to hear that the body types need some space. and they need to have you not just inserting
I would say,
yourself.
I'm going to just pause for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
9 needs space.
Okay.
The 9 needs, they all need energetic space.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
The 8 goes to get, the 8 needs contact.
Gotcha.
Show up,
Yeah.
show that you're here.
Yeah.
Are you going to meet me? It's a
Mhm.
different kind of space. It's space,
Yeah.
but it's a different kind of space. Show up, be here.
Yeah.
Don't jump into your head. Tell me what's up for you. That it's an emotional realness type.
Okay.
How
Yes.
do you experience? So you're partnered with a 1, right?
Mhm.
How do you experience this feeling sense in the 1? How is it? Yeah, I'm just curious.
Ones don't usually like to go to their 4 space because they will go there artistically, but to go into the feelings is very scary for ones. So,
Yeah.
my husband and I recently had a great conversation that I shared on the podcast when we went through the Truity 7 Love Styles test. And he said, it's not comfortable for me to go to the deep emotional spaces. So when we have our discussions, even about our relationship, I appreciate and enjoy the intellectual style better so that we can get to the heart of it, almost like a cognitive behavioral therapy versus psychoanalytics. So it was very helpful for me to hear that because we do well that way and we clear up our conflict that way versus me thinking I've got to bring you into your deep 4 angst.
Right. No, that's control. The ones aren't going to be controlled. Yeah. So that's really interesting. Yeah. It's like, so you meet through the
Yeah,
intellectual realm, and
correct.
sometimes through the intellectual realm, sometimes up into, like, I find sometimes ideas can open me to my heart,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, it's not, none of these types, their feelings, the reason that feelings are hard for them because there's so much.
Yeah.
And it feels scary to go to their feelings. It feels like a physical overwhelm
Yeah,
for
okay.
body types to go to the feeling center. Yeah,
Oh,
to
thank
the
you. Yeah,
emotion.
that's helpful for us
It's
to know the
physical.
why.
Right. These are feeling types. That doesn't mean that it's easy to get to the, and when I say feeling, like I said, it's immediate, it's
Mhm,
instinctual, it arises from deep within. So
mhm.
knowing your body and your somatic clues are hugely helpful, I think, in
Mm,
this work. I think we've not been operating with a full deck. We're all educated through cognition. We're all
right.
learning ideas. People talk about being present, but any meditation teacher will teach you. Anybody who's worth their salt in meditation includes the body as a core present centered practice of becoming aware of sensation.
Oh my
The
gosh,
5
that's
senses
huge.
are a good portal of entry, right? But underneath that is the sensation. And that's what trauma experts are telling us a lot about, somatic
Mhm.
experiencing. I've had some training in that as well with the Peter Levine School of what's happening in the body with a client, because some people can't go there because they're literally somatically unoverwhelmed.
Mm.
That's helpful for me, Krista, with my 9, to know when he's unoverwhelmed. I used to chase him down.
Yes, and that's not gonna work
It
with a
needs more
9.
work.
Oh, no, and I like how this I think does apply, and it helps me to understand the body types even more because
Yeah.
of those 5 senses rapidly firing at all times. When you go after them with anything, there's gonna be an overwhelm in most cases. Of course, the 8 wants to fight and they want sensory seeking in that way, but they really also don't want to be dominated. So it's nice to be able to say body types are actually feelings types, and they have a lot of feelings. We don't always have to pull them out to do good marriage work, but it will depend on the spouse because some body types probably really connect in feelings and want that deep work. Some have a lot of trauma, but as you said, we're exploring all of this as a young science right now. So I
Right.
like that you're bringing in the body and the somatic experiencing so people know this is a layer of the work that a lot of people in traditional marriage work did not know in the past. So be
No,
listening. Yeah.
right. And working in the present was not always what people do. It's what I add. If they need therapy, classic therapy, I refer them to a therapist. But
Yeah.
present centered work with couples is a very different kind of work. And I would just make the distinction too. They don't always know their emotions. Emotions are a different thing, but that's different from feelings, the somatic
Mm,
feelings in the body. Okay.
thank you.
So I can't say that I actually give heart types and body types. I have to give everybody, I have lists of emotion words so
Mhm.
that they can look at what are my emotions right now in this present moment? And maybe where does that emotion house itself in the body? Um,
Mm.
so, so if we
Mhm.
talk about the heart types, when I talk about this
Yeah.
doing center, all
Yeah.
right,
Yes.
um, it is oftentimes what they're feeling, what their emotions are, they don't always know, even
Mhm.
fours, because they might be, for the fours, one four said it's kind of the swirl and the toilet bowl of my emotions. But when I get with other people and there's other people in the space,
Mhm.
right, so much of the energy is on how you see me.
Yeah.
One four did this great collage in one of my classes. He drew a picture of himself in the middle and he surrounded the perimeter of the collage with other people's faces and they were all looking at him. That's that self-reference.
Wow.
Okay. Everybody's looking at me. And so for a four, whether I'm co-teaching with a four, working with a four, is to you other reference in terms of seeing how you automatically go to other people. But ask yourself, how am I feeling? Giving yourself
Mhm.
a little bit of grace, and also not focusing. It's kind of funky because the fours are self-referencing. It's focusing on me, on how I am to you. And I say to fours, focus on what might be going on for them that has nothing to do with you, right?
Good.
Because we self-referencing types kind of we take up a lot of space
Yeah.
in the relationship. So it's like it may have nothing to do with you. So if you're teaching or if you're working, or your child is upset or your partner is upset, it may have nothing to do with you. All right. So
Mm.
see though how you're feeling in the moment. All right. And then
Mhm.
being attentive to, maybe what's going on for them. For
Mm.
the two, the doing is, for the twos, they have a hard time even receiving, because receiving, if I have a need, it goes straight into the heart of my pride. So fours, rising anger is a sign of unmet needs, but I don't even know I have a need. And I found twos, if you try to help, if you probably notice this, if you're partner with a two, they get irritated.
Mm.
It's at the pride, right?
Yes.
I do, I'm a doing center for you.
Mm.
I'm a lot of confusion about my own feelings, my own needs. I know what yours are. I know how to do that. But for you to do something for me, it hits at the pride, and I feel the deflation of the pride.
Yeah. How does a spouse give to a two?
That's a great question too. So why don't you tell us? Um,
In the comments, please.
I
I
would
know they
say,
like different things because I've done a lot of surveying, but I'd love to hear if you've ever had a two kind of get to that space.
well, my dad's a two. My
Okay.
dad was a two. I would say, so let me tell you, I went to take care of a two who was having a knee replacement.
That's
And what I
hard.
was aware of
Yeah.
was that when they are receiving, they get snarky.
Okay.
All right. So we had an honest conversation. I said, how can I do for you? Because I'm coming up, you need help. All
Yeah.
right. I'm
Yeah.
coming up to help. And I don't want you to snark,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to get snarked at. So
Mhm.
what can I do? What's the best way I can give to you? They said, quietly. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just the coffee cup shows up, the meds on the counter with water.
That's good.
Just show up with the meal and gab, but don't make a big deal out of it, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Because it's hard to receive. That's the feedback
Yeah.
I got straight from the horse's mouth of a
I
two.
love it.
The
And
spirit of the narrative tradition.
I have a two coming up to a knee replacement in my life soon. So
Mhm.
I'm happy to get that specific advice. But
Yeah.
what's
Don't make a big deal
fascinating,
out of it.
yeah, is what I love that Leslie's telling us is yes, we want to work on our passions and fixations, but because these are here with us as kind of lifelong sojourners, it's also just knowing how to love our people right where they're at, right?
Well, this is a person who's not doing a lot of Enneagram work. I mean, they
Okay.
know they're a two, they do some work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing, and if you're a two, notice what happens inside of you when you receive, when the pride gets hit, when someone does, because we're always the paradox. We have these type paradoxes. There's
Mhm.
9 paradoxical ways we want a certain way, but we live out a reality where we don't get what we want.
Mm.
We sevens are always looking so upbeat and okay. People, when we're not okay, we don't get the support we're looking for because people don't know how to be with us when we're
Right.
not okay. We're very
Right.
clumsy at it, very, just clumsy at it.
Yeah. Right. And so what we're really looking at is how do we help these heart types to be able to, in their doing, to feel their own feelings and to
Yeah.
share their needs? And I guess you're saying the first step for them is feeling their own feelings. And then you're also creating an awareness with every heart type listening when somebody starts to give to those needs and recognize that as a form of love, because I know heart types want to be loved, right?
Mm. Well, yeah, and it's in three different ways. So for the three, I've been getting a lot of threes in my practice lately.
Mhm.
And so for threes, it really has to do that you're going to show up, not just when I'm shiny,
Mm.
and that
Mhm.
you're here, not just when I'm shiny. Now, there's ways you push people away. For three, that's your own inquiry. The projection is you don't love me when I'm not shiny. You
Right.
don't love me when I'm not a winner because I'm so heavily identified with being a winner. I don't even know I have feelings. I have a three that works for me. And one of the things we do, Krista, is we pause at the beginning of the meeting. We drop inside, do a short meditation of
Mhm.
how am I feeling right now? What's coming up for me? What's going on in my body? And she'll be the first one to say that when she first started doing body stuff with me, she had no idea what I was talking about. So if you
Mm.
don't feel your body, welcome to the human race. We really haven't been, our culture is just not very good at having us be aware of our bodies.
Mhm.
But as she becomes aware, she can see where she was angry or see where she felt sad. But it
Mm.
takes slowing down. That moves so fast, we don't want to feel our feelings. So
Mm.
for threes, threes are who are going through something hard. Is, I think one three said to me, one of the worst things people can say is, if anyone can do it, you can. It just makes me feel like a bigger failure,
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so I said, what if people said, I'll be here for you no matter what?
Yeah.
She said, it would be hard to take in, but it's what I need to hear.
Mm.
Right. And
Mm.
so when I'm working with threes, it's really hard. I give them a feeling cheat sheet and I have body sensation words on one list. I have
Mhm.
emotion words on another list, and just say, just because it's like a new territory for them. It's confusion.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm feeling. So it has to be taught. And I think we're not taught. I mean, raise your hand if you were
Yeah.
taught to pay attention to your body when you're a kid growing up.
No. No, my
It's just power on through.
yeah.
And
Oh,
think. We're taught through the mental center, a
mhm.
little bit maybe on emotional intelligence, but not much. And
Right.
then the body center is
Mm.
completely not taught at all. And so
Mhm.
none of us is playing with a full deck. And we have these two other centers.
Yeah.
We head types benefit for us getting out of the damn head and come into
Yeah.
contact with the other and say, what's up for you? How are you experiencing this? Body type or head types can be very avoidant of
Mhm.
hard conversations
Oh, yeah.
because we may not feel like we don't have the equipment to kind of deal with it. So we imagine all these things in our heads and don't make
Mhm.
the actual contact of picking up the phone, meeting
Right.
for coffee. We can be really avoidant of doing.
Yeah.
Thinking replaces doing, so much to the point we thought so much about it, we thought we did it.
Right. We were so anxious and terrified by the worst that could happen in it that we, decided not to. And we allowed it to go up and out, head and then heavenward. So it's really a huge gift for every one of us to be listening to Leslie say, you have to balance these centers. And we're not shaming you because we're in it too. We know that this is part of the culture we're all in. But I love how you said, we're not playing with a full deck in life and in marriage. So these are just great insights for those married to the body and heart type. And now, as we begin to understand the head type, you're reminding us that that we have to kind of come down, and our spouses are dealing with us not being fully present. And I would
Right.
say we lack a lot of presence in the body and in the heart.
Exactly. And one of the simplest things I do, head types, is I feel my feet on the ground.
Mm,
And I think about the difference between the thought of my feet and the actual felt sense of my feet on the ground.
Mm.
And I had this a few years back. I lost my sister to cancer, and while she was sick, I called a friend of mine who's an eight who does a lot of the three-centered work and said, just I need to talk. I just left her, and I was my whole system was
Mm.
on overwhelm, and my mental patterns, it was just like,
Mhm.
and she literally talked me through. That is a doing. We talked through. We connected. I could feel her heart of support.
Mm.
Then when I got home, she said, "Do you have any trees in your yard?" I have a lot of trees. She said, "Just go lean against a tree. Feel the solidity of the tree." We head types can feel like heads on a stick and not
Yeah.
terribly grounded in the world. So just to feel
Yeah.
the tree, feel the back of your chair. You can do that right now. Just feel the felt sense of the chair supporting you. Then you've got more capacity to deal with the overwhelm of something so sad,
Yeah.
and then I could have a good cry that without that kind of panic cry. It's
Mm.
that kind of more body, somebody standing with me, somebody I trust, who I
Mm.
care about, who can just stand there and be present, even though it was over the phone. Lean against the tree and let the grief move through. We don't have a lot of chops for that if we're body type or head types. We just don't have a lot of chops because we mentalize our emotions and we're
Yeah.
disconnected from our bodies.
Mm.
So for us, it's about coming into contact. We can be so avoidant, and this culture gives so many ways to avoid real human conversation, and then stop and listen from your other centers if you're a head type.
Yeah. And that's just a daily practice you can put on is what time of a day is it? When's the last time I connected with my body? And I know that's a great practice to just get up and move. And like you said, I have to be near my microphone, but I did the grounding with my feet just now, and that was helpful. But the back of the chair or getting up and walking. And I know my husband's been great about this with me, and you could ask your spouse to do this too. When we go out on a walk, I'm just so in my head, and he automatically says to me as a body type, look at the sky, look at the stars, look at these trees. And it just brings me back into the five senses. So if you don't have a spouse in the body type, you do that. But it's nice to hear that these practices can be put on daily and they can benefit you and your marriage because your spouse appreciates you being as balanced as possible too, as long as you're not forcing them into it, right?
Right. That's so true. It's so simple. Doesn't it sound so simple? Look at the skies.
Yeah.
Look at the trees around you. It starts bringing you down into the body. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, my husband will say, "Come sit out front and listen to the owls. We've
Oh,
got these, owls nesting nearby." And it's just it's just a way. And I resist it every time.
oh, me
And I
too.
do this, y'all, for a living. And when I do, my whole nervous system starts to settle down. If you're a
Right.
five, you know this, you have a more sensitive nervous system. And
Mm.
so you pop up into your head, you start trying to figure it out. Your, the avarice shows up as kind of contracting against somebody kind of coming into your space.
Mhm.
And the body gives you a support. It gives you another place to go. And I will tell every one of you, if you're doing this, if you're new, especially if you're a five, when I start doing somatic work with fives, a lot of times they can't feel their bodies at first because they've been
Mm.
so habituated to going to the mental realm so quickly. Um,
Mm.
and with sixes, you tend to be reactive, defensive. The
Mm.
body gives you another resource when your nervous system gets scared. And we all head types know, scratch a five, you get a six, scratch a seven, you get a six,
Yeah.
is to really just be aware that the body can be a resource. Breath, in fact, that's a core practice I work with clients, is breathing. And I love the work of Peter O'Hanrahan in the narrative tradition,
Yeah.
who's been really generous with me and my materials and using his
Mm.
breath practices for each type, because each type could do, we sevens, for instance, we can inhale, but do we
Yes.
exhale? Way
Right.
down through the legs into the body. Eights, it's kind of a power up breath. Threes, there's this chest breathing, for you to get down into your belly. I mean, for each one of us, there's the way we breathe
Yeah.
that feeds the conditioned self. And presence
Mhm.
is pausing, coming into the present moment. The easiest thing to observe is your habit of thought, but also notice, how is it housing itself in your body right now? And you can pause, come back into the present moment and ground.
Oh, that's so good, so helpful, so healing, so reminding me of the vagus nerve and, pushing down and just taking the deep breath and allowing everything in your body to get regulated so your body isn't in the fight or flight mode. I mean, it's neat to hear about Peter's work because it gives our listeners even more of a fine-tuned, nuanced reference if they want some additional breathing tips and tools. And I also like, obviously, the late David Daniels relaxation work too. Um, with that said, what about getting the thinking types into the feelings, into the emotions, into the heart?
So your dominant center is perceiving, if you're a
Mm.
head type. Your
Mhm.
secondary center is the body. All right.
Mhm.
So head types usually feel relief. Like, how heart types feel a little anxious when I'm having them close their eyes and coming into their body.
Yeah.
For head types, it actually feels like relief.
Yeah.
Unless if you have trauma, that could be different.
Mhm.
So is paying attention to your own life experiences is important. And I'm talking about some significant trauma. We've all got, birth trauma. We've all got some degrees of trauma, but I'm talking about some pretty intense degrees of trauma. The body can feel like a less safe place.
Mm.
But the tertiary function is the heart. So first come into your body and feel your body. And I think for types, just feeling, kind of sometimes touching. Dan Siegel does some great work on touching the heart,
Mm.
touching the belly, grounding, and then pause, because
Mm.
we project a lot. We head types project a lot onto other people. The
Mhm.
mental center is the fastest center. And just get curious if you're in conflict. It's just like, what's up for you right now? And then pause. Ask. So, how are you doing with what happened this morning? How are
Mm.
you? Now, right now, that can feel scary because it's happening in the present moment. And I don't know what they're going to say. I can't anticipate it. I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'd rather,
Can't
let's write
plan
a
for it.
letter. Like, I want
Yep.
to plan for it. So it's going to
Mhm.
bring you into that present moment anxiety of uncertainty if you're a head type, because you're looking for safety, security, and uncertainty. So when you feel anxious, asking the other, pause, come back, feel your feet on the ground, breathe. Just remind yourself, for a six, I'm safe. I can trust myself right now. Just drop inside and be present to the other. All right. Just as they are to themselves. Watch your projections. If you're a five, just notice the assumption is that if I ask you about you, you're going to overtake me. You know,
Yeah.
that's the avarice. I'm not gonna be up for dealing with this. And
Yeah.
then for the sevens, it's really slowing yourself down. And I know it's hard. I
Yeah.
know it's hard. But your body's a resource for you to help you slow yourself down, dropping into the breath. It's what I do a bajillion times a day when I'm taking a walk with my daughters. I've got a 9 and a 4,
Yeah.
Um, these are two kind of more withdrawing types. I
Mhm.
have to sometimes just really pause and notice when I start to, insert, and notice when I'm making assumptions. The Enneagram is a fabulous map, but I can make assumptions about what's going on for them based on their type that may have nothing to do with what's really happening for them.
Oh, wow. So being in touch with your body will lead you to asking more gently in the heart. A little more safety comes through this getting centered, and then you're more open to actually asking versus projecting.
Yeah, making up a story. What are the stories we make up?
Oh
Like
my gosh, we make up a
types.
lot of stories.
Think of the, think of the bajillion stories you've made up about what's going on for someone. And your projections hurt people. My
Oh.
projections hurt people.
Hmm.
And so,
Wow.
I sometimes just have to pause and just think, okay, what's going on for them? And knowing the Enneagram and doing this for a living, I can make assumptions. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes it's some version of it, but it's only part of the story.
Hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
only part of it, And so it's not about me. It's easier for me to tell you how it is for you because then I've got control. The mind loves to control,
Mm.
right? So if I can tell you how it is for you based on my great knowledge of the Enneagram, right?
Mm. Mhm.
I'm not having to be in contact with you as you are to yourself.
Mm.
So what the body does is it gives me a resource to calm my anxiety when I come into contact with you.
Yeah,
And if
that's
I'm not there, I talk too much and too fast, and I'm not really present to you, and you feel it, you know it.
mm. Wow.
So
Absolutely.
it's a three-centered gig, and I think it's we're ready for it. I think
Mhm.
people are, we're seeing much more about the body. I think we're ready for being able to work with these types in this way. And if meditation's not comfortable for you, start with a walking meditation. My admin said, Leslie, I would just roll. She's the three. I would roll on a ball and just feel my body and just keep coming back to my breath. She goes, I had to do something. Art types you sometimes have to do something, but if you're going to be alone for two, can you take a walk by yourself? Feel your own aliveness by yourself. Come into contact with the trees who you can't manipulate into liking you. Just receive them for you, you
Mm.
know and almost imagine that this creation is for you. Feel your own presence. Spend time alone without bringing this, or stick it in your pocket.
Yeah.
And because talking on the phone
Yeah.
isn't being present to yourself. And
No. Yeah.
so it's just spending alone is really important, I think, for all of us, but particularly for heart types, so that you can feel
Mm.
your own aliveness. Gives
Mm.
you time to feel your own aliveness of what's alive for me right now. And when your mind goes into the doing and it goes, come back and just spend at least 5 minutes with your five senses and your own somatic. What am I feeling right now?
Mm.
Just feel appreciation for your own aliveness.
Wow. I love that. And I love how that will bring them into even the thinking after that. Like they're feeling what they need to feel in their bodies. And now they can think healthier. And you're just helping us to see there's routes. So the thinking types go to the body and then they'll get to the heart. And then I know everyone's different even within this, but do body types typically, and when I say body types, I mean the ones, eights, and nines, just for clarification,
Yeah.
are they then going to heart first or are they going to head
So
first?
I want to make a
Okay.
distinction. We head types don't go to the body, right?
Okay.
We don't have any training for that.
Okay.
That's your pause practice. Your
Okay.
pause practice is
Is
to
the
come
body.
into your body. Right,
Okay.
right. We don't automatically go there. We automatically go up here.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why
So,
when my designer drew the images that I sent you, they're all the energies up here. All right. For
okay.
the body type, the energy is all vibrating in here.
Okay.
What I would say for you, for body types, the heart center is coming into contact with your own heart, your own vulnerability. And that feels scary.
Mm.
All right.
Hmm.
So sometimes being in nature for you, having some self compassion, particularly if you're an eight and you've blown up at something where you just think, oh my God, I did that again. I was
Yeah.
too strong, and I was just trying to get the truth out there and it hurt someone.
Yeah.
Give yourself a little grace, a little bit of kindness.
Hmm.
And what I have found with body types, like I'll give you an example. If somebody is sent to me for coaching and they're a body type,
Hmm.
if I try to jump them to their head to try to get a wider lens to see the bigger picture
Yeah.
without attending to see you, body person,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You're gonna go stubborn. You're gonna ground. You're gonna get
Yeah.
more
I noticed
entrenched
this.
because you're protecting yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're armoring, because that's what body types do. It built into your nervous system that anger protects you. So even if you feel sad, if you feel fear, it's going to show up externally as anger because that's more comfortable than the vulnerability of sadness or fear. So your work, if you're a body type, is to come into some self-compassion. Spend some time experiencing your own worth. Nature can be really helpful for you too. and to just with your focus on, just feeling your own worth, that you belong on this planet. You are here. Your incarnation matters.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then start noticing where you're getting stubborn. After you feel a little bit of a pop or some spaciousness, start to notice, where am I getting a little stubborn about my position? What would it be like? Get curious. What would it, because if I tell you how to do it, you're going to oppose me.
Yeah.
All right. You're gonna go stubborn on me. So get
Mhm.
curious. What would it be like for me to open to this other perspective I hadn't considered? What would
Mm.
it be like if I softened my defensiveness here
Yeah.
and thought about how it is for that partner of mine, or that employee or fellow worker or whatever of mine? What would it be like if I thought what it's like for them? You know? And
Mm.
with nines, you do that naturally, unless you're mad. If you're mad and you've got stubborn, it's hard for you to see the other's position. Or
Mm.
even if you do see it, it's hard for you to soften to it.
Mhm. Thank you for clarifying that with nines.
It's the softening
Yeah.
to when you've hurt me, and nines, this, if you're a nine, you tend to withhold. It feels a little, that's why sometimes fives and nines confuse themselves. Nines don't give all of yourself, because it's that feeling you're going to overwhelm me and take me over. Nines have said that to me
Mm.
on panels. If I give you a little, you're going to take me over. And it's so
Mm.
hard for me to find my own space anyway. So
Mm.
spend some time, feel the edges of your body, that you're here, you belong.
Wow, that's really helpful. We've never said that on this podcast for nines, and I think they're going to really appreciate this. And then fives in that spot, they wouldn't feel it the same. They would just feel, it sounds like their quick minds would say, I've got to pull back.
Yeah, it's more it's just, think of it. This is really, and it's hard to teach this on a podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause it's really it's why I do so many,
Videos
things in my
and
work, in my workshops. I'm actually having people, I do exercises where people get an opportunity where they're like, oh my God, this is such a simple exercise. And I didn't really realize I'm never aware of my body. I have no idea what I'm feeling in any given moment. I can talk about my feelings, but I have no idea what I'm feeling. So that's the tricky part of this.
yeah.
So just get curious about it yourself, as relates to this other center.
Okay. Yeah.
I find meditation, and I do a lot of guided meditations in my courses around that, of just to feel your own body. And
Wow.
yes, and I want to give a little confession to all of you, is that when I was doing my training and they were doing some of this body stuff before I did the centers approach, I would skip it. I'm like,
Mm.
I want interesting data. I don't want to do some Tai Chi thing or whatever. They had a martial arts expert. And I got FOMO. Everybody was talking about how amazing it was. And I got FOMO. And I went back in and I was like, oh my God, these patterns live in the body. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I cannot believe how deeply entrenched they are in the body,
Yeah.
like hugely. And
And
it's
I
changed
think,
how I work with people, Krista.
okay, that's where I want to go next, is where can people find you? Because your resources are amazing, but I'm really wanting listeners to know, I think we get a little worse versus better if we're not intentional, because we just get more locked into patterns, even if you've been doing your work for years. So I've noticed it even recently in the last 6 months, how important it is for me to go back to the body when I'm getting lost in the head. So just to give listeners that reference, and also to let people know, I am sharing this on the Enneagram and Marriage new YouTube page. So that way you can see what we're talking about here a little bit more. But Leslie, where can people find you so that they can get more from you? I love this, and you've been studying, and I've been so blessed by your work.
Oh, so first of all, I have a YouTube channel, so there's a lot of videos there. Haven't uploaded a lot lately. It's been kind of crazy during the pandemic, but I've got some pandemic videos there,
I
actually.
like those videos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that uses the centers approach. And you can just look it up. I've been on a number of podcasts, so do that on YouTube. If you want more of the centers work, I highly recommend the Foundations of the Enneagram, the centers approach. You can find that on my website, and you can put it in the show notes. I sent you the
Yeah.
link,
Mhm.
and that's at lesliehershberger.com. I've got a lot of information on my website, just a lot,
Okay.
including some of the, a lot of the videos. But I highly recommend the centers course because I interview panelists of clients who've been working on the centers. So they are really able to speak to the centers. And then I have meditations for the different centers. I have worksheets, journaling prompts. But what I do is I unpack the Enneagram from the more traditional perspective of the 9 types, the wings, the arrows. I touch on the instincts. But the primary focus is the centers approach. So if you want to dive into this approach, that's there.
Ah,
Um, those would be the 2 primary places. They also can be found on Integral Life if you're interested in some of the spiritual work I've done. I taught a workshop with Helen Palmer and Renee and Terry from The Narrative, and that's called Patterns of Being on the Integral
mhm.
website, Integral Life. And then the
Okay.
Coming Home and Integral Christian Practicum is also there. And so is my Enneagram course, Between You and Love, because I said, the core of that course is what stands between you and love, receiving. It's you. It's your type. And that course really unpacks that from the Enneagram perspective. That's that course.
Oh,
But yeah, those would probably be the best ways to find me. And I am doing, sign up on my mailing list, because then you'll get, newsletters when I do things on Zoom, or retreats. I'm going to start back into doing my public
awesome.
retreats again next fall.
Wow.
Yeah, so and a lot of that's geared towards people who are doing this work. It's going to be for people who have been doing some Enneagram work. You know, less geared for brand new people. But I've got a lot for people brand new to the work.
Thank you. Thank you for trying to be with those of us who are newer and then those who have walked this journey for a little while. And now we're
Yeah.
doing this with marriage too and trying to integrate the best of marriage research. So
Oh,
thank
that's
you because
great,
you have.
Krista. What good work.
Thank you. It's a joy and it's a labor, as you know. So I'm trying to do the work with everyone so we can all be balanced. But thank you, Leslie. I've treasured this time. I'm looking forward to people
Thank you.
getting
And
this
thank you
info.
for your good work in the world. I mean, I have to tell you, marriage work is some of the hardest work there is out there. I
Yes.
know a number of therapists who won't
Mhm.
do it, and
Me
that you
too.
dive into it with the Enneagram, good on you.
Thank you. My particular traumas make it perfectly suited. so, so I love it. So anyway, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, Krista, you take care. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.